can stop me now.
Good afternoon, YouTube. Hope everyone had an awesome week and is enjoying their weekend. You already know what time it is. It's time for another preview episode of What's to Come in the upcoming episode of No Mercy Sports. And I'm your host with the most, baby. The Brooklyn Nets had a rocky season this year, but at least they made it to the playoffs and made it a series against the first team they were going up against, right? Right? Whatever. Speaking of the news, while they acquired Ben Simmons during the trade deadline, he was sure to make a serious impact on Brooklyn and make them serious fucking contenders in the East, especially during the playoffs, right? Right? Since Simmons came over from Philly, let's talk Philly. The Sixers acquired Harden in a trade with Brooklyn, mostly due because both players wanted out of the teams that they were playing for. When the trade happened, I believe that Brooklyn won the trade because they were getting rid of a player who quit on them just like he quit on Houston. But did Harden get the last laugh when he was traded? Like I said before, we know what a disappointment this year was for Brooklyn. I mean, fuck! They were preseason favorites to win it all this year. However, they weren't the only ones who were the preseason favorites, people. Aside from the Nets, it looked as though the Lakers, or as I call them now, the Fakers, were preseason favorites to win it all this year too. Much like the Nets, though, the Fakers' season was a complete embarrassment, which leads me to ask, who's the bigger disappointment this season between the two teams? Never a dull moment in the playoffs, people. But aside from surprising series, there's also going to be some disappointing performances. What kind of disappointing performances? Here's one. Last year, Trae Young led the Hawks to the Eastern Conference Finals against the eventual champions, Milwaukee Bucks. Being back in the playoffs, Young must have had quite the performance to match what he did last year, right? The NFL draft is upon us, people. Teams are always looking for certain missing pieces to make them serious contenders for a Super Bowl. But which teams walked away with the right picks and which teams blew it to capitalize and add the pieces they need? Oh, Doc Rivers, why do you have a history of blowing 3-1 series leads? The Sixers found themselves up 3-1 against the Raptors team they should have easily beaten. Did the Raptors come back and force a Game 7, or did the Sixers close the series and move on to the next series of the playoffs? Find out all the details to these questions on tomorrow's episode of No Mercy Sports, baby. I'll see you then!